that's already dead. How are we going to kill somebody that's already dead?
It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive.
Just our brain treatment was given to you. You are a robot, that's all you are. Better not change your mind. You just better not.
10,
Better not change your mind. You just better not.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Sounds right.
Yeah. No kidding. Oh,
It was really good.
And you'll never get it
Ooh.
back.
I really need to check on this stuff before I do this.
yeah.
Check
Like-
1, 2.
like-
Hello. Now you can hear me.
Hello.
Ix is no longer muted. I am in fact not muted. I am out of focus though. Talk to the hand.
Dude, why is this turning into Space Ghost Coast?
I
to
know,
Coast?
right?
It's only.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh no.
I'm trying to do
I call
the
Zora-
spank ray hand. That's basically.
No, actually, I would rather be Moltar than Zora. No, Christoph is totally
Yeah,
Moltar. I'm
but
sorry.
Christoph is not here, in case you haven't noticed. Once again with us is our special guest, TotoRobyn. Yeah. How's it going, Robin?
It's going
Good. What's new
well.
and exciting in your world?
Nice. Just, recovering from, having to put up with you at NobCon.
Well, that's.
I feel like
Yeah. Sorry.
that's enough of a recovery
Yeah.
time right there. Yeah. Otherwise, life is good. I'm just settling in and getting back into digging into my synths since work hell is over.
Sweet. Well, I'm glad you're here, even if nobody else
Thanks
is.
for having
apparently.
me.
No, I'm kidding. No. Well, I'm glad it was good. It was good meeting you at NobCon and hanging out
It
and
was
eating
awesome.
food and all that kind of stuff and talking about nerdy things and synthesizing and stuff. It was a wonderful time. So I'm glad I got to meet you. And I'm glad that you were there. So there. With us also this evening is, of course, Jeff. What's new in your world, Jeff?
Hello. Nothing.
Great. Justin, how are you tonight?
I'm well. I'm a little worried about Jeff.
Let's see. What's happened?
No, you lost your fucking
I
chance.
didn't go to NobCon. Oh, no, I did have something exciting happen. I found some stickers that I was able to put on this giant suitcase-sized Behringer monitor controller that I have that fully cover the Behringer logo on it.
Oh, very good.
Nice.
That was maybe like the highlight of my musical week. No, I'm doing a collaborative project with a Discord group that I'm in. So we're doing like a spooky synth pop song for Halloween.
Nice.
Doing that. That's about it. It's been kind of calm. I've been playing on my beautiful Mythic. Definitely not made up, not CGI. UDO Super
Yes, I heard
6.
you had to swim out to a boat to pick that up.
I did.
I'm
Sometimes it happens.
yes, I'm glad you had your little inflatable water wings on you when you did it, though.
Blah, 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 blah.
Mostly only happens in James Bond movies, but it does.
It does happen sometimes.
James Bond and water wings is my new favorite idea.
There
of
we
the
go.
night. They're like pop out of his. They come out of his.
tuxedo?
What's that? The tuxedo. Like, pulls it like.
Well, he's the
pop
guy
up.
that I think it taught me to get air out of a tire if it's sinking.
Oh yeah, to breathe the air out of your tire. Mm-hmm.
I think that's view to a kill.
I think you're right. I think Roger Moore taught you that.
Yeah, which was
that
nice.
was nice of him. So handy.
He also taught me to be a tax evader and move to Monaco.
Well,
but anyway,
Nice.
you still have not. So
I did neither of those things.
yet.
For the record, I paid taxes.
Yet. The key word, yet.
Exactly. So speaking of Justin, what's new in your world?
Not much. Because I am, of course, incredibly danger prone. On my visit to another doctor, injured my hand on the security door of my apartment. So I've been, I know, right? I'm like totally danger prone, ridiculous. So I worry very much, but it's okay because I bought a vintage drum machine to keep me happy. So I bought the Sequential Tom.
Oh wow!
Ooh.
And I bought it because there's a English gentleman who created. So it took cartridges, like you could replace the EEPROMs with cartridges. So you didn't have to open up the case. And he did a bunch of samples for it, for like the Lindrum, the LM1, the Oberheim stuff. So I thought, hey, this would be a cool thing to play with then.
And it's been fun so far?
Yeah, it's my first, I think, vintage drum machine that I own.
That's awesome.
So
Nice.
The nice thing about
Hopefully
drum
they don't
machines is much like masturbation, you can do it one-handed.
Yeah, whiskey? No, yeah.
Got my beer handy.
That was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
Right?
Whiskey.
How about you, Andrew? What's going
What's
on with
going
Andrew?
on with Andrew? Well, I went to KnobCon, as you may have heard. I didn't buy any synths either, but I did buy a beautiful stand from KVR, I think is what they're called.
KV
Gear. Thank you.
No problem.
Yep, they are very cool people, and they are they make really nice stands. So, shout out to them. So I got a nice little thing to hold up some stuff for the deluge because you can't ever have too much of that. Otherwise, I did a stream on Sunday. Was it Sunday or was it Saturday? Days melt together. I think it was Saturday. I did a backyard ambient stream with the hangout in the backyard with the deluge with the microphone as an oscillator thing and just taking in the birds and wind and chimes and stuff like that.
That was really nice.
Thank you.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun thing to do. I like to take the deluge out there, and then Stasha read some poetry while we were doing the whole thing and made it all like deep, which is impossible for me to be deep.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That was cool. Jody and I watched it. It's funny. It popped up on my iPad as tangents, and it was like Saturday afternoon, and I'm
Were you
like,
gonna panic?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, thanks for excluding me, which is like special edition without me.
No, I forgot to change the name of it, and so I did that.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait, it's Boyd's and poetry.
Boyd's and poetry and little ding dong sounds. And of course, the neighbor decided to mow his lawn right when I started streaming, so you heard a lot of and then like echoes of that.
That's just your white noise generator.
Exactly. It was a drone. Need some drone sounds, man. So yeah, so that was that's been my couple of weeks. It's been fun so far. And yeah, I don't have much going on. I don't think I have anything going on this weekend, except playing with that one-handed drum machine that we call masturbation.
Oh, I got to watch what I thumbs up. You gotta
let him finish first.
Yeah. Just don't make any gestures until he's completed his statement. It's for the best.
Oh,
I win.
Oh.
Synth Lab, yeah, I know you had to go off and leave early, but it was nice having you on the stream for a little bit. So we have a lot to cover. I know. Right before we started, I was actually considering just tossing all the show notes aside and just chit-chatting and just being like, oh yeah, there's these things that happened, like this, like KnobCon and Super Booth, but let's not talk about that. Let's talk about So, but we do have a lot of news things to cover. So one thing to say, Robin, this was your first KnobCon. Was this your first synthesizer convention?
It was.
Excellent. So here's the question. How many times did people mansplain?
Surprisingly, I don't think that actually happened.
Really?
Nice.
I'm thinking, or at least if it happened, it wasn't obvious. So I'm actually pretty impressed with that because I go to a lot of gaming conventions and I get that there for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just kind of curious because I know that that is a thing, especially in any subculture, really.
Yeah, I would wonder if, like, say if I was like maybe necessarily like next to like guys all the time, I would wonder if that might change the dynamic a little bit. But like a lot of times I was visiting booths by myself, so it seemed totally reasonable.
Interesting. Well, thanks. It was one of the things I was actually curious about. And I was talking to Stasha about that before the show, and she's like, you should just come out and ask her during the show. I'm like, yeah, I'll put her on the spot.
Oh, totally. No, I'll answer questions like that. Believe me.
Cool.
Yeah, it's getting a little tough in this joint.
That's
here.
right. We ask the tough questions here on Tangents. Well, cool. Well, I like I said, it was great. It was great hanging out. It was a lot of fun. Everyone should go to NobCon next year, especially if the pandemic is gone finally. Then everyone should definitely go to NobCon.
Yeah, I'm hoping there'll be more vendors and more presence there. But the people that were there were pretty awesome, and like the performances in the evenings and the jam sessions were totally what made that experience awesome.
There was about half the vendors that there normally were, and there was about a quarter of the people that there normally were.
Oh.
So it was kind of weird. And Moot Booksley kept on giving me this weird look and kept on waving at me, and I felt a little uncomfortable about that.
You know, last time I was there with you, remember I ran into Corey, who I really, really like a lot, and he was standing next to Moot Booksley, and they were in line or something to get in, and I felt really awkward. Like I didn't want to be like, hey, gosh, guys, I watch your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I was real. It was bad, and I don't know why, because they're just YouTubers. They're just, even if they weren't, so what? I'm not normally impressed by famous people or anything, but it was just like, but anyway, I'm sorry that Moot Booksley freaked you out.
That's
man.
okay. Jade Wee was nice.
Jade
Who? Wee.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's cool.
I like her content a lot. She's good.
Yeah.
No, it's great. She does good stuff.
Absolutely. So let's dive into some stories. The first one I originally put up for the last show, but we ran out of time, and this one is kind of a wet, crazy thing. And this one is that trip hop superstars, Massive Attack, are calling for carbon emissions reduction in live music venues and live music tours and stuff like that. So they actually commissioned a report on the carbon footprint that live touring leaves, and are criticizing people for not doing enough about it, at least in the UK. So this is kind of an interesting thing. They're saying that, first of all, that rock stars should ditch private jets and that kind of thing. But they're also talking about the government for not doing enough to support the music industry in that regard as well. I would imagine that, typical concert, especially larger ones and or music festivals and stuff like that, there's quite a lot of them, a lot of, I don't know, electricity wasted and everything like that. And, resources, gone to pot and everything.
Yeah, I know. I read that article, and they sort of said that they've been doing this sort of like cap and trade style stuff and felt that really wasn't doing anything. I mean, I saw them on the mezzanine tour a couple of years ago here in Chicago, which really was an amazing show. But it's like, I would say that it presents some interesting problems, right? Because you're sort of going, how should I put this? You're going down to the sort of foot soldiers and complaining about what's going on way above, most musicians aren't rich and famous and are just trying to scrape a living,
right.
I don't know. I think it's just a larger indictment of the world. If you want to do your part in that particular sector, that's totally cool.
Sure. Stay home and live stream.
But, yeah, sure. Right. Yeah. I don't know. There's always been sort of weirdness between the British government and music acts because other European countries, for example, offer money to musicians to do stuff. And, the UK is more like the US in that respect.
Yeah, definitely.
Money? What is that? You can have that for music?
I thought you had to pay to play.
It's weird. Yeah. It's weird. I'm deeply on the wrong side of the balance sheet with the equipment that I've got.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, it does raise some interesting ideas. If you go, I mean, I haven't been to a festival in a long time, but even just going to shows, like small shows that I usually go to and everything like that. I mean, the amount of waste that's produced in those environments and stuff like that is kind of crazy. Not just like, electricity and everything like that, but also, think of like the bar, all the plastic and shit like that gets dumped around and everything along those lines and stuff.
The 1 gajillion unreusable single use. That's the word for that. Unreusable is not a word.
It is now.
It is now.
It is now.
Yeah. Unreusable water bottles and everything like that pop up. I am ashamed to admit this rabbit hole that I went down, but it's related to this, so I'll just own it. I went down a pretty deep rabbit hole the other day about some content from Gathering of the Juggalos, and the amount of chaos and destruction and trash and environmental wreckage that the Gathering of the Juggalos must cause has got to be the equivalent of like 3 coal-fired power plants. Right. The photographs from it were absolutely mind-blowing. So I can for sure see how these events would be like real bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Gathering of the Juggalos releases more toxic waste into the atmosphere than Centralia, Pennsylvania, since it caught on fire in the 1960s.
Yeah. I mean, opening 1 can of Faygo probably does, and there's millions of them consumed.
So much. If they pour all that Faygo into Centralia, Andrew, they may really put the fire out. I don't know.
Or that's how you get Godzilla. Like, that's how you summon him.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
For sure.
I guess we need to have a Gathering of the Juggalos in Centralia.
That would be.
We could kill so many birds with 1 stone.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh dear.
So
just tell them they're here to summon Godzilla.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So Lauren asks, if kind of related, if you had all the instruments acoustically, would you use them instead, as opposed to like electronic? I can't play any acoustic instruments myself, so no. I do know that when I do play out nowadays, the stuff that I'm using has very low power consumption.
Yeah.
And I think that, most of the music gear nowadays is pretty power efficient compared to, like the old, like I think my Sonic ESQ1, when I would turn it on, all the lights would dim in the house. But nowadays, like our friend the Deluge is very low power consumption. You can run off of a battery and everything like that. And so much of this stuff you can run on, you could run on solar if you really were feeling kind of goofy about it.
You could for sure do a lot. I mean, I remember even with some of the guitar stuff that I used to have, even now, like even the tube amps today feel like they draw a lot less power out of the wall than they used to. Because I had the same experience. Like you turn something on.
Careful.
You turn something on, and you get like the almost brownout effect that would come from it. And now I can turn on everything down here on like 1 socket. It doesn't even register. Yeah.
It's weird because, I mean, the EU, for example, has really strict rules. And the first time I came across that was with the ARP that I had, the ARP Odyssey.
Yeah.
Because if you leave that thing on, it'll just shut itself off. It's got that shut off feature. And I think that's kind of like their answer to that. It's like, oh, if you won't shut off, we'll shut off for you.
Yeah. I think a lot of, probably the biggest whack from it now is actually, it's not the power consumption of the device, it's the power consumption to create the device, specifically devices that contain lithium ion batteries, which you have the rare earth metals in a lot of those. And that's pretty bad for for an economic or environmental hit, but it's also pretty bad on a human toll in a lot of cases because of the supply chain. So that's, I mean, I think it's tough. I mean, it's just super tough to know what, if you're doing like a decent thing or not with a lot of the stuff that we buy today. But I think,
the worst is what we do when we're done with it.
Yeah.
So
it just goes to landfill, basically.
I mean, as a person who used to live in multiple countries in West Africa, I can tell you that that's where a lot of that stuff ends up.
Oh, jeez.
And people burn it. They just burn it, plastics and whatever else, to get at the precious, semi-precious metals that are in that material. And it's just sort of dumped off in, giant containers full of this stuff. So. Sorry, we're going down this rabbit hole.
No, it's a good, and I think that if folks are into electronic music and they are ecologically conscious, I should say, not conscious. There are a lot of the stuff nowadays is very, like I said, it's a very power efficient kind of thing. I mean, the production maybe not so much. And what happens afterwards and everything like that, of course. However, a lot of especially in electronic music, people tend to sell and buy and collect and stuff. So a lot of the stuff doesn't really end up in the dumpster as much unless it says Behringer on it.
Yeah.
And you just cover it with a sticker and then it works forever.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's more like phones and old, workstation machines. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, I think. So what would happen if we had no electricity? I mean, I know I played like acoustic instruments, but it's like I've become so enchanted with this world that it would be super difficult to go to like having to use a xylophone and a darabuka or something. I think you could do it, but it would be really weird. And the thought does occur to me sometimes, like, what if I had to go off the grid?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, a lot of the appeal of the electronic instruments is I love a lot of the sounds that are created by the acoustic instruments, but I don't know. I like the fact that the sounds that we can create feel so unnatural and feel so synthetic.
Yeah.
Which is a real appeal of it to me because it feels like it's so much newer and like it's coming from something else. I mean, even, we think of electronic music or like quote unquote, like old electronic music. It's a baby compared to the piano or the harpsichord or the flute or the guitar or something like that. And even, the old sounds that feel like dated are hundreds of years newer than these other sounds. And it just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even a conventional instrument like a guitar. I mean, I have enough effects pedals to make a shoegaze band jealous, and I still can come up with weirder stuff with one.
I think it's also the accessibility. It's like for those of us who don't have like formal training or years of experience, like I, as a kid, avoided my parents trying to convince me to learn how to play the piano. And it's like, realistically, the only thing I know how to do acoustically is play an African djembe. But the beauty of electronic music is that you don't need the talent of how do I play a guitar, how do I play a piano to be able to create the sounds that you can get out of the synthesizers.
Totally.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that I think someone said at one point the biggest mistake that Moog did was attach a keyboard to its synthesizer. I think that was
thanks, Herbert. Isn't it Herbert Deutsch?
Yeah,
I think
no, Herbert Deutsch is the one that did attach it to there. But yeah, and but I think that that's just it. Is that we have the ability to, as in electronic music, we have the ability of using whatever type of input that we want to in a way. We don't have to we don't have to use a keyboard. We can use other devices, including things that look like guitars and stuff like that, or have the same layout as a guitar, or the interfaces that never existed before and that kind of thing. I think that we have that kind of ability, which a lot of traditional instruments, you learn to play how that traditional instrument wants you to play it. Where with electronic music, once you get in there enough, you can figure out you can tell it how you want it to work. And I like that.
Right.
Lauren goes on asking about doing it Neubauten style, which is like you finding things and banging on them, and or building these weird instruments out of stuff that aren't normally typically music, and that's certainly an option as well. I think that the difficulty is that if you want to talk about electronic versus acoustic things, it's, you know, even, you know, and I get this a lot when, you know, playing shows that are being run by venue owners or sound guys that are used to traditional guitar, bass, drummer, singer kind of acts, and that is what we're doing, the same kind of thing, and I think it absolutely is. And there's a line you cross when, as soon as you do things like bang two sticks together, where you're creating a technology. And this is all technology, you know, and the sound guy that said, well, when I have real bands here and blah, 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 it's like, you still run everyone through a mixer. You're still adding your technology to it. You know, you're still making it electronic.
I know we're going so tangential, but I will speak to my experience as a middle schooler and high schooler playing in like post-punk new wave bands. I can't tell you how many times some like person came up to me and was like, your guitar player isn't a real guitar player because he's using effects. And then I'd have to have this discussion with them about Jimi Hendrix, you know, where I was like, he used a lot of effects, but he was still really good, and that's okay.
And you're using a guitar, which is technology as well. So, I mean, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. You just sort of get the sort of snobbery, you know, on a certain level.
Yeah.
But,
progressive troglodytism.
Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah. I just think of, what is that Bad News thing where it's like, I learned how to play Stairway to Heaven when I was 12. And he's like, I'm way ahead of Jimmy Page. He was 24 when he wrote it.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Yeah, it's true, though. So, yeah, we went way off from the carbon emission thing. Thanks, Lauren. It's all your fault. Just for that, I'm making you a VIP.
Nice.
We did it. We had a tangent.
Yep. First story out.
And how?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, first story out, and we've already gone off on a tangent. So, moving on to our next piece of technology. Our good friends at Asian Sound Machines, ASM, has introduced 2 new Hydrosynths. And these are the Explorer, which is a small, happy little battery portable guy, and the Deluxe, which is anything but small, portable, battery powered. So 3/4 of the people that are currently on the screen right now are Deluge owner. I'm sorry, not Deluge owners. Actually, 3/4 of us are Deluge owners too, but 3/4 of
another true statement.
However, 3/4 of us are Hydrosynth owners.
Complicated Venn diagram /
So
problem from the 7th
So
grade.
easily enough, if Robin just bought a Hydrosynth and Justin just bought a Deluge, then we would be fine. All the sentences would be correct. But so the Hydrosynths are this is the desktop version, and Jeff has the keyboard version behind him. None of us have the Deluxe or the Explorer because they're not out and available yet, and I don't really want either of them myself. So the Hydrosynth is a beautiful digital synthesizer that makes no shame that it's a digital synth. It is a wavetable powerhouse. It is a beautiful sounding piece of gear that is it's got 8 voices. It has these crazy morphing abilities and stuff like that, so you can make these incredibly neat sounds. It's got a surprisingly intuitive interface to run through. At least it was to me. Ability to that has tons of places for tons of macros you can run on this thing. You can run it through CV and put it through modular, or have your modular control it. It had the keyboard, the keyboard of the normal version, the deluxe version has polyphonic aftertouch, which is wonderful in that class. The keyboard version also has a ribbon controller on there that you can do all kinds of weird shit on. The desktop version has these little pads, and those little pads are also polyphonic aftertouch. Chef's kiss on that one. Fantastic.
They're really good. They're actually like very playable.
They really are.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm not a keyboard player by any stretch of the means, and so having that interface again offers a lot of playability, and it's a lot of fun to play. The thing has MPE built into it. It's a really great synthesizer made by Glenn Darcy, who's responsible for designing things like the Mini Brute and shit. What else, Justin? You know more than I do.
Well, okay, so he was involved, I think, in the Matrix Brute, and I think he was involved in the Origin and a lot of their software products. I know that he pushed for them to get the Matrix done because he was a big fan of the Oberheim stuff. So, I mean, he was their director of something or another. He at Arturia for many years.
So yeah, this is a great synth, and he did get promoted. He's now the CEO of ASM.
Oh,
So
nice.
There's that too. So the Explorer gives you it will run on AA batteries. Interestingly enough, does not have a internal built-in battery. It will run all the same patches and everything like that. That is on the standard size and the deluxe model. It is 8 voice, has 37 notes keyboard, and actually that little keyboard does have polyphonic aftertouch as well. So everybody has polyphonic.
Are they mini keys or
They are
smaller
smaller keys. I wouldn't say they're quite mini keys. They're smaller keys.
They're not as small as they're not as small as the mini log, but they are smaller keys.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah, the mini log keys are very small.
yes.
Yeah, I learned that at KnobCon, the difference between those two.
Did you compare? I don't know. I think the Jupiter XM was there that one year, and it's in the same sort of category. It's like not super small, but not like full size either. Sorry, that's small SMOL, right? Small. But yeah, I mean, it's that kind of weird intermediate size, which I mean, if I didn't have a lot of space, which actually I don't, but let's just say I had even less space or I was traveling a lot, something like this would be very attractive, you know?
And it's $600.
Even more attractive.
Which is also attractive.
That was the main reason I was looking at it at KnobCon, because it's like I've read so much about like the desktop version, and I figured, the Explorer would totally be up my alley. So that is honestly my favorite booth at KnobCon. I probably spent way more time there watching and playing with all of the synths there. The size of it is actually really reasonable for, like, I think they're really smart with the price point they put for it. The funny thing is, I still actually would lean towards the desktop, but it was nice to be able to experience the size and the portability of the Explorer.
Yeah. I had the desktop and I sold it to buy the keyboard. And I have a strong propensity for just like preferring the keys on things, but I think I would go with the desktop over the Explorer too, because like Andrew was saying, the UI on the Hydrosynth is extremely good. It is extremely good because, I mean, this is like the dumbest thing to say, but I'm saying it's extremely good because of the way that it is. It, like, if you take away 2/3 of the screens off of it, I don't think it would be very good. The reason that it works is that it actually isn't very menu heavy, and it only isn't menu heavy because it has a bunch of screens.
Right.
Well, they kind of stole a playbook, in my opinion, and I know we're going to talk about Ensoniq later, but this was kind of the Ensoniq model, where you have a screen and you have buttons on top of the screen, and it allows you to very easily, the MPC is the same way, and that frees you up. And also somehow they got complex, weird wavetable stuff to work in a left to right workflow. It's completely amazing.
Yeah. So that would be the thing to me that is not super appealing about the Explorer, is that it feels like, now if I were a person, I love the presets that come on my synthesizers. I use them on things sometimes, but I spend a huge amount of time making patches on synths, and I think that for somebody who just wants to play the presets that are on it, or download banks of them, or spend, maybe edit one or something, but not spend a lot of time in the sound design, it could be a really good option. But the like the difference between the Hydrosynth and the Kyra is basically just lots of screens in terms of like accessibility. It could go Waldorfian in like 2 screens or less.
Yeah, definitely.
Who do you think? Well, you two were actually touching this thing. Was it on display
Yes.
there? The large one, deluxe.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you think this is for? I mean, it's not 88 keys. I mean, there are synth-weighted keys. Like, obviously, it has double the voices and stuff, and it's space to put your coffee mug, which is inadvisable.
Yes.
But I just wonder, like, who do we think this is for? Because usually when they make a large version, it's for more conventional players who are like looking for more keyboard.
So I think personally, and I kind of talked to Glenn Darcy about that because I griped to him that he didn't make it that space on the, and this we're talking about the deluxe now. He didn't make the, he didn't make the, because of the, okay, so real quick, the deluxe is a 73 note keyboard, 16 voice version. You can layer the voices together. So you can like kind of, or split them and stuff like that. So it's, it has a big space to the, on the right-hand side of it. And one of the things I asked Glenn Darcy was, is that space big enough to put a desktop, a Hydrosynth desktop on it? And he's like, no, it's too small. And I'm like, oh, dude, because one of the things that you can do with the Hydrosynth is you can polychain them together, so that way they're you can take like you can plug in your 8 voice Explorer into the deluxe, and then that will give you 24 voices, that kind of thing. So you're taking a desktop and plugging it into the Explorer and having space right there would have been, or the deluxe and plugging it into a desktop would have been kind of nice. But there was not enough space on there. So I kind of asked him, like, so what is this thing for? And he's like, well, studios and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, or people that are performing with a laptop. Because it even comes with a little extra thing that you can attach to the back of the deluxe that gives you a little bit more room on the back of it for your laptop.
Arturia did that with some of their key labs. And I think that's a pretty cool feature. I like this one a lot. And I have gotten, and I like this UDO Super 6 is fantastic. 49 keys is not enough keys, people. You need 61 keys. 61 keys is the right number of keys, and 73 is too many. 61 keys on it, that's the right number of keys for a synthesizer.
This is your Goldilocks manifesto here.
This is
49 keys. You cannot play low bass and like not quite soprano level trebly keys on it at the same time. And if you're doing some sort of a split, you need 61 keys. Nobody needs 73 keys because we are not Yetis with arms that we're not playing like this. It's like a duet on a piano at that point.
Go gadget arms.
I don't know, like that's the Analog 16, which is sort of like almost out of view. This one is a 61 key, and it's perfect. It's exactly the right size keyboard.
This is the hill you're gonna die on.
It's the right answer. There isn't another right answer. I'm sorry if anyone disagrees. You're just wrong. It's 61 keys.
Information
is the right
Dre
answer for
says 0 is the right number of keys on a synthesizer.
I will accept that as well sooner than I will accept 49.
Nice. I just think it's an interesting marketing thing here because, it's kind of interesting. You get people that release stuff that's so similar and overlaps in a really annoying way, and eventually we'll talk about Waldorf. Or you get this where it's like, it's really the same thing with, it's either got, the Lincoln Town Car version, or the like my Honda Fit version, which is the car I actually own. But however it goes.
But still, they're wonderful synthesizers. The last KnobCon in 2019 was the first time that they came out, and they blew me away. And I couldn't wait to order one and everything like that. And that was in my mind, that was the best of show at KnobCon in 2019. SynthLab, have a great night. Sleep tight. Don't let synthesizers bite. Never mind. You know what? Just sleep.
Can't talk about bed bugs anymore because they're like a real
Yeah, I
thing.
know, right?
Don't let Uli
Don't
bite.
let Uli bite.
Just no Uli Behringers.
Check
No.
under the bed.
I'll definitely say going from Knobcom, like I'm now like totally sold on like future synth is definitely going to be the Hydrosynth desktop. That just blew my mind more than I expected it to, and it's so unique compared to anything else that I've played. So,
And
it's really very
in
cool.
every update they come out with, they push the envelope a little bit more on what it can do and everything like that. So it's not just here's a bug fix. It's more like here's some more oscillators. Fuck you. You need 12 more filters. Here's this. Suck my dick. And that kind of thing. So it's literally Glenn Darcy. In his intro videos to stuff, half the time he's like, you can read the manual. I'm not going to tell you about this. Just read the fucking manual.
Yeah, he totally RTFM'd that one. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And he's so incredibly dry. His sense of humor is like Sahara dry, So I watched it the first time and I'm like, wait a minute. And the second time through, I'm like, just insulted me. But you know what? I love him so much. I'll take it. It's fine.
Incredible stuff. And I think that actually, outside of the Golden Shrimp Guild table, it was the best of show. This one again. And of course, the Golden Shrimp Guild didn't have the best table because we were there.
not biased or anything.
Completely biased. And you're all here to confirm my biases. So there. That's why I have you on my show. No one argues with me.
Oh my gosh. They turn this into a Fox and Friends panel.
I know, right?
Just kidding.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Wrong. All right. Focusrite owners are as part of Novation and Sequential and everybody else, one of the super corporations of music making things. Focusrite has released some new Claret audio interfaces. Jeff, take us on a journey here.
The Claret, I guess the step up from the Scarlet line, and they were sort of a little bit more pitched toward studio. I shared a Sweetwater link there because actually at the time that we were getting the show notes together, comically the information on Sweetwater's page was worlds better than the information on Focusrite's page. It was a little bit of a miss there, but good on you, Sweetwater.
You guys are fast.
Yeah, they're like, buy them, just buy them. We'll put whatever you need. So a lot of the older Claret stuff, it was a lot of it had Firewire still, and it felt like it was due for an update. So these are not ultra high. They're not like the UA Apollo X16 high end audio interface, but they're pretty high end. And they sound really good. They're really fast, and they're super bright red.
And they're super bright red indeed. And they're USB-C. The three new models are 10 in 4 out, 18 in 8 out, and 18 in 20 out USB-C audio interfaces. All of them have mic preamps. The stuff that you generally need. They start at $500 and go all the way up to $1,000. I would say that probably Focusrite, their main competition is going to be like, who do you think, as far as like the Clarets are concerned?
Some of the higher end Tascam stuff, I would say is probably there. What's that unknown brand of French interface that Christoph has?
Oh, the ones that name all their stuff extremely complicated ones. My previous show that I was on, we did a review, and I still can't remember what the fuck they were called.
Yeah, maybe maybe Motu. I think positioning wise, I don't know about quality wise, but I'm biased. Yeah, there's not a lot in that range that is the sort of project studio. If you don't want to go all the way into, don't want to go all the way to UA range, but you do want something that isn't just the Scarlet interface, or you don't want to go all the way to the to like the big mixer / interface.
Yeah, these remind me a little bit like of like the PreSonus stuff.
Oh yeah, PreSonus too for sure.
The Quantum's the 8 one, right? That's the
the Quantum is
the 8 input.
that's that. Well, the Quantum one you can do up to 24 inputs if you can plug all enough of that shit in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it had 8 on, but I know
Right.
you're right. It has digital in the back and other stuff.
It's got those weird long things that you can hook a bunch of crap into. I looked at getting a Quantum at one point, but I changed my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing, I think this is probably true for every interface at this point, but the Focusrite stuff also does come with some pretty good software alongside it, and that can be pretty handy for people. So you get, you're not just getting the physical gadget, you're getting the software that goes with it and works in your DAW or whatever else. But
so what are our audio interfaces of everybody?
I have right now 2, I guess. So, and I think I'm going to change out mixers pretty soon and just go super hardcore. But I have the Korg SoundLink MW2408, which is a 2-in, 2-out. And then I have a Scarlett 18i8 that I've had for probably 12 years.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And it's still okay.
Nice. Robin, what do you got?
My audio interface is built into my mixer, so I have a Mackie Pro FX 16 for version 3.
Awesome.
Nice.
Justin?
I use the Zoom UAC 8.
Wow.
Which I bought because I needed the ability to have the analog inputs in the front because of the patch bay. and Zoom actually surprised me. It doesn't have great software, not a lot of those bells and whistles, but the preamps on it are actually pretty good. They only have preamps on the first 2 inputs, which is normal, I guess. And it's really low latency, and it's pretty darn good for the price.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's also USB 3, so eventually,
Well, I got y'all beat.
Exactly.
I have a Motu Travelite, which has a Firewire 400 connection on it, as well as a Motu 828 Mark II that has a Firewire 800 interface. And those are actually plugged in, daisy chained off of each other, and then going into a Firewire to Thunderbolt converter into my Mac Pro.
Wow.
That's impressive.
So,
yeah,
and
when you say
I'm getting barely any latency at all with that somehow.
So when you say, have you got like the 2 audio outs going into audio ins, or are you digitally linking?
No, they're just
them, or
like one. The one Firewire is going into the other Firewire, and they're just going it from there. So they're just daisy chained literally into the computer, and then I have the Mac set up for that to be an aggregate device.
I thought you meant audio daisy.
Oh no! I meant like Firewirely daisy chained.
Firewirely.
And I have that as an aggregate device with all of the Electron gear that has overbridge on it. So those are all their own inputs as well. So it's kind of a clusterfuck, especially if I forget to turn on something. But all I gotta say is that fucking PreSonus' software is just great with this stuff, as is Logic and Reason actually. DAWs are great. And then running the show, I'm running it through a PreSonus Studio 68C, which is just a 4-port USB-C audio interface that I do all my streaming through on this PC box that I'm currently running this on. So yeah, interfaces everywhere.
It's one of those things where it's really the right tool for the right job and how you use it. For me, I'm mostly interested in dropping audio tracks, and it does what I need it to do, And I think, something like the Audio Fuse is appealing to me. It just doesn't have enough I/O to suit my needs, but like smaller ones are pretty sensible too. Or I like, Robin, your idea. I mean, I've looked many times, and I thought, Jeff, you've also struggled with the mixer versus audio interface problem. I've had lots of mixers, mostly analog, and I always end up selling them because they never end up doing what I want them to. But But
I think I
would
found the
prefer-
mixer.
I would prefer a mixer. I'll level with you. Or even like a controller, dedicated controller, and you're using.
Yeah, I have a fader port 16 that I use for mixing and stuff like that. That works both because when I'm streaming, I run everything out from the Mac into the PC, and so I have everything is running into Presonus' software. Brain fart totally right now. Wow, the stuff that I like to use.
Studio One.
Studio One, thank you. It
Yeah.
always confuses me because of Studio One version 5.
They should just change, instead of changing the version, it should be
Studio
Studio
3,
2,
Studio
Studio
4,
3,
Studio 5.
Studio 4.
Yeah,
just,
that's
Make
right.
it easy.
just go up the names of the studio.
So I have all the stuff running through there, and then I patch bay the shit out of everything too because I have more gear than I have channels available. So I do a lot of patching, and then I use the fader port when I'm playing live, so I can quickly mute stuff out or bring up and down levels and do like the mixing from there. And it works.
I've been looking because I have struggled and fought and battled with mixers, and I like the one that I have right now, but it really wants to be a lot. And I think I'm just gonna bite the bullet and buy an Allen and Heath Q32 and just buy a mixing console because it's a 38 in, 38 out audio interface with 32 inputs.
That would be about as much as I need.
It's actually not quite enough. I have 38, but with that in the patch bay.
Wow.
Allen Heath is like the SSL stuff, where like you get like an 8-port input device, and it's like $3,000. So I can't even imagine what you're dealing with there, man.
It's not terrible. So we'll see.
Sure.
It's like 40 inches wide. It's like a legitimate mixing desk. So we'll see. I don't know.
Where are you gonna put it? You have to move a curtain.
Carry it with me
There
everywhere.
you go.
Just carry
Backpack.
it with me everywhere.
There's
No.
a backpack option, yeah.
Yeah.
So make sure you're sitting down. If you're sit down again, I think I would actually start using the DAW and stop using the Porta Studio for mixing. Or for production. So I would probably wind up moving the Porta Studios off the desk and putting it on the desk.
Oh no.
That's it. I'm done. I'm out. We got to end the show.
Blasphemy.
And thank you for watching Tangents. Good night, everybody. I said good night. Jeff, you're fucking fired.
I know.
Tune in next
The only
week
thing that I
where
brought to the show was being the weird guy that used a Porta Studio.
tune in next week where we'll have Dan Kushner in for Jeff.
All right. If you can find like an Amiga 500 and run like an old thing on there, then I'm
Right?
Let's
just
give it a shot.
Information Tray says, I could never find a mixer that does what I want or need, which is why I have a bank of MIDI controllers controlling live as my mixer. And so many inputs, a Motu 24 AI and a Scarlett 18i20.
Yeah.
He also considered Allen Heath SQ7, but yeah, too damn big for my space. I actually just got a few weeks ago, I picked up a Novation, was it Launch Control XL?
Mm-hmm. Those are
and
cool.
I had that plugged into the Deluge, and it's so much fun. I have that and the Mini Lab, an Arturia Mini Lab plugged into the Deluge, and it's just like, oh, here's my little tiny studio. It works out really well. I'm digging it. JEK says, got the Little Bear submixer running into a Tascam IXR interface. Also an idea. And Lauren says where to put the Amiga. Lauren is, of course, big on Amigas. For those that don't know Lauren.
Oh, is that
That's
our
our
Lauren?
Lauren.
Oh, dude, I remember his Amiga.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Lauren.
Who doesn't love the Amiga? Besides Amiga haters. So back to the news.
Except the Atari
Yeah,
kids,
right.
right? That was the. No, I'm aging
I
the hell out
know.
of myself.
My Atari XT will kick your ass.
Yeah.
John.
Your Atari is mate. It's rubbish.
Yeah, right? John Haynes, thank you for
Yeah.
the subscription. John Haynes, I think, was my very first subscriber. He's up to 21 months. I've
Nice.
been doing this for 21 months. God, almost 2 years. I'm old. All right. So, whilst at KnobCon, Robin and I sat at the table for the Golden Shrimp Guild, which is the best table there. And across from us, we could see clearly a be-ponytailed and be-masked Mark Doty
Nice.
yammering for hours about the new Buchla music easel, which made its soft debut at KnobCon. So this thing is, I don't know a bloody thing about Buchlas really. I'm hoping to one day, but
Yeah, this whole East Coast West Coast thing is blowing my mind. I love the sound of West Coast stuff, but I can't wrap my noggin around it. I don't know. Like Suzanne Chianni makes it sound so good, but every time I try to make a patch with it, it sounds like some dying robot from a 1940s movie. It's just not
It's
working.
Yep.
so this is the
It's definitely weird.
Yeah, it really is. So there's not much known about this thing. They're just kind of showing it off. That they're not even sure they're done with the specs that are on this thing yet. So they haven't really released much information about it. I didn't really get a chance to go over and talk to Mr. Doty about this because I think that Mr. Doty wants to murder me in my sleep. Did you talk to him, Robin?
I mean, I didn't talk to him, but I did go and actually check out that music easel. It's different. It's like the keyboard piece reminds me, I mean, not in the same vein, but in a similar way to the Micro Freak in terms
Yes.
of like the weirdness of how the keys feel or like how much pressure you put on it to emulate a sound. So that was a little bit weird to get used to. Like the controls are also really unique in nature, and like, I mean, there's a lot of controls accessible, but without really knowing what, like having enough instruction of it, it's definitely like, all right, well, I'll see what, like both myself and Dave were trying to play with it, and we're trying to figure out how to work the ARP on it, and it's like I magically got it and then I couldn't bring it back, and I'm like, ah.
It's very ephemeral. Yeah. And so I think it's basically the easel command with the capacitive keyboard attached to it. It's the easel, like the original easel keyboard, basically, and then slammed down into a briefcase. And this one, it looks like. But it's I mean, so for anybody who's not super familiar with the differences between the East Coast and the West Coast, is the East Coast Moog style of synthesis is, of course, what we think of as like typical subtractive synthesis. So you start with something that has all the harmonics in and you cut them out. That's basically what you're going for. And it uses filters. And the West Coast style, or the Don Buchla style of synthesis, is additive. So you start with no harmonics and you add them in. So it's closer to FM in that sense. And instead of filters, you operate what are called low pass gates, which are kind of filtery, but kind of not. And you can get some really very interesting sounds out of it. The sequencer on the easel is a 5-note sequencer. So if you're into like 5-note ARPs and squawk noises, then the easel is like for you. I love it. I think it is fantastic. And if you're into like 5 notes, then you are
You're in hog heaven.
Wow, have I got your synthesizer?
Oh my god.
So, and also, I think one of the things about like what Buchla did also was they weren't afraid of using different interfaces and stuff like that than just a keyboard interface and stuff. And so if you see Buchla synthesizers, they'll have all these like weird shaped things, like the one that looks like a Thunderbird. I think they call the Thunderbird interface.
It is a Thunderbird, yeah.
And that kind of thing, just more unique style things, but they're also ridiculously expensive. You're talking, if you want to buy an oscillator for this thing, it's about $700 to $800.
Oh wow.
So, and if you're looking at like getting a full system, you're going to be dropping, you can buy a car or you can buy the synthesizer.
Tens of thousands of dollars, like
That's good
multiple
perspective, darn.
tens.
Yes. So they're not.
I mean,
not cheap.
I appreciate Don Buchla and all this stuff, and I hear people make great music, and I do understand the technology from a standpoint of not touching it, kind of. And Jeff, you're absolutely right about it. It's just that, I don't know. To me, it's just like if you have to work that hard for something, I don't know. I feel like either it's going to inspire you deeply or it's going to frustrate the crap out of you, And I think there's just something so accessible about the sort of Moog style workflow.
There
and
sure
while
is.
I like the idea of people throwing in cool and weird stuff, so we're not just doing subtractive, or we're not just doing low pass filters, but you still have a cognizant workflow. I look at this thing and it looks like one of those Radio Shack kits that I bought when I was a kid, and which is all good and fun, but I don't even like modular because I don't want to deal with the fact that I'm never going to be recreate a patch because I'm at that level of OCD. But like this thing would really drive me nuts. Like, I mean, it's super cool, and if you like that sound, I mean, this is probably a good gateway drug because it's can't be that expensive.
I think it's probably going to be about $5,000 to $6,000.
Yeah.
This thing. Good.
Yeah.
Jesus Christmas.
So, the thing, to your point, though, about the idea of it being difficult, the intent that Don Buchla had, and there's some really, if anybody's interested in like good reading, good listening, and just interesting dude, there's another musician named Todd Barton, who is a big Buchla name, I guess. It has like a fan base of not that many.
Tens of
like
people.
This is not like U2 getting their album put onto all of Mac computers. But Todd has talked about, he was heavily influential in the design of the music easel. And some of the stuff that he has talked about in interviews is that the specifically stated intent behind the music easel was to invent new sounds and new kinds of music. It was not about being, on sort of like the simple side of it. People thought about the Moog style of synthesis as being very much about, let's find a way to recreate every sound that exists. Can I make it sound like an oboe? Can I make it sound like a kick drum or whatever? Don Bucha's like, can I make it sound like space aliens on meth? What do space aliens on meth sound like? I want that one.
No, that's a really good perspective.
And so the intent of it actually is not to be accessible. It is to force you to make weird ass noise, which is not everybody's game.
Well, let's think about this though, because hold on. Like I even remember in the early ages of my experience with keyboards, people were severely hung up on trying to emulate acoustic instruments. That was like a big deal. I think people now really don't recall this, but the DX7 was so dominant because it was able to do certain things really well, despite the fact that it was impenetrably difficult to program. So in some ways, Buchla won the battle. Right, Buchla won the battle for hearts and minds, in the sense that where we're headed is we want to make unnatural and weird sounds. We don't want to sound like pianos. I mean, sometimes we do, but do you know what I mean? Like, we want to be able to create our own sounds. Whereas, like, you're right, early days of Moog or any of those, that was the first critique was, well, that doesn't sound like an oboe. Well, yeah, duh, but
that sounds like a model D.
Right.
Yeah, that was a big battle for a long time in people adopting synths. I think, it makes me sound like, an old codger. I'm like, these kids don't understand. But seriously, it was like a big problem. And so in some ways, this particular additive technology, while it might be kind of beta maxed, the philosophy, I think, won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think about
sure.
okay, so you have like these two different things that happen on, east side versus west side, or East Coast versus West Coast. So, like, on the East Coast, the thing that made the Moog synthesizer popular was Wendy Carlos.
Yes.
Yeah, switched on Bach, made the idea of a synthesis, and what she did was she made it sound accessible. She made it sound like an oboe.
And it's all such a lie because it's all monophonic, multi-tracked. 1,000 gazillion tracks. It's so the production on that is so impressive. It's just incredible.
Wendy Carlos is just such an amazing player. I mean, I mean, really a harpsichord player, I think, by training. So, I mean, is able to just roll out Bach and then do stuff on the Clockwork Orange soundtrack, which is actually
mostly just the stuff
really,
from
really
re-release from
Yeah.
Bach. So on the one side you got Wendy Carlos, and she really made this thing kind of commercialized and made it sound acceptable. And then on the West Coast side you had Suzanne Chianni, who came at this from a very different aspect and a very different standpoint. But she succeeded by making commercials with it, with this instrument with the Buchla that was very weird and bizarre, and she was able to program it and make it do things that that's what she did for a living. She literally wrote commercial jingles with a Buchla synthesizer.
Yeah, I mean, she's a genius. I'm sorry. I mean, but that aside, it's just like, wow.
So you got so you have those kinds of, you have these two different mindsets, and and Justin, you and I have seen Suzanne Chianni a couple times at Moog Fest, and each time she did these incredible music atmospheres, I guess you could say, and stuff like that.
Deeply really emotional, like really like hairs in the back of your neck, standing up, like you're completely focused on the music, which is hard for me as a musician to not be constantly analyzing, to actually, and she's able to do that.
Because we had no idea what the fuck she was doing, because she was doing it on a Buchla.
You have this giant screen, remember? There's a couple monitors of her close-ups of the Buchla, and I'm like, that doesn't help me at all, right? Like, she might as well be hooking up a 1970s telecom equipment, like I have no idea what's going on.
Or literally just casting spells.
Yes, that's kind of what it feels like.
And on the modern side, or more modern side, I guess, because that's not unmodern, Caitlin Aurelia Smith is in the same thing. Like she makes it sound absolutely beautiful and really compelling in a way that is not 5-note strong. It's
I think that should be a new genre of music.
Strong.
I mean, it is. It's just everything played on an easel. It's but she's done the same thing too. She's just an absolute sorceress with one of them.
Interesting.
And she did an album with Suzanne Chianni.
Yes.
Nice.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So speaking of all this and the financial strain of owning a Buchla, might be a thing of the past, because our next story, dun, dun, dun. So Buchla has partnered with Tip Top Audio, manufacturers of Eurorack gear, and I generally try not to put too much Eurorack stuff in our shows, because we could talk about Eurorack for hours and 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 hours, and not even begin to penetrate what's going on in the Eurorack world, because it's so big.
Cover which modules were released today.
Yeah, as opposed to over the past 2 weeks, because it's...
I'm sorry, Jeff. If you didn't release it in the last 15 minutes, I'm really not interested.
Yeah, it's so insane. But we...
Oscillator, so last half hour.
But we made a exception here, and that's because Buchla is partnered with Tip Top Audio, and they are actually rolling out the Eurorack 200, which is a Buchla's 200 series, and they're converting the whole thing to Eurorack standard, and they're doing it in a way that is affordable. Like, instead of the $600 to $700 for $600 to $700 for a oscillator, you're now looking at about $160 to $200. So that brings it much, much more into more people's hands. And they are releasing these things out a little bit at a time. So the dual oscillator, which is the 258T, is coming out in the winter, and that's going, they're saying, about $160. Then they're going to be releasing the low pass gate, which is like a filter kind of thing. They don't have a price on that yet, so it's just a little bit of time. But they're doing like their function generator, their quad function generator, which looks insane. That's also coming out in the winter, and that's going for about $170.
That one's normally $2,000.
Yeah, and that's what
Wow, that's
that's
perspective.
the function generator right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
I think I'm going to buy all of these.
I'm thinking I'm going to do the same.
Yeah.
Wait, are you a Eurorack person, Jeff?
No, not yet.
But
It's funny because the next topic is going to make me buy a Eurorack, but we'll keep.
John Haynes.
You're going to hear my first album of 5-Note Skronk, and then you're going to go buy your own Buchla Euro rack, and you're going to be sold.
And and they're going to be debating on Wikipedia, how 5-Note Scrum got started.
Right.
This is here tonight.
Lauren says if a harmonium counts. Actually, I have the Telharmonic module, Lauren, which is a digital version of the harmonium. And instead of it taking up a room, it's about that big. And it sounds so good. It's one of my favorite modules. John Haynes says, according to Mr. Doty, they're based on Buchla concepts and have a good sound, but they're not fully the same in terms of features as the full Buchla modules.
Yeah.
That's what he wrote on Facebook. I have a feeling that he's going to do a class at the next KnobCon as to why the tipped-up audio is not the same as Buchla, and it's going to be 4 hours long.
Andrew, I'm really trying to behave this episode, and you're making it really hard for me. But I'm just going to be quiet and be like, yeah, you're right. I mean,
Justin
look,
misbehaved so much on 2 episodes ago that I actually pulled it from YouTube.
Yeah. So here's the thing. He works for Buchla. Of course, you have to say that. But it may be true. But no matter what, it brings us down to us mere mortals, so it's all good.
Slaughterhouse is saying, imagine holding a tablet up to a webcam in 2021. You know what? You can click on the fucking link too there, buddy. But it's not as much fun as me holding up a tablet to show it to you. So yeah, this is really cool. That now I'm thinking I have to probably get another Mantis case. Just for that. And I already have 2 Mantis cases.
The thing for me is I think for anybody who wants to try this out on your own, there is an Arturia easel. Mm-hmm. And you've got a trial with it. It's very good.
Mm-hmm. The software
the software version is very good. It is one of the software versions that I can immediately tell is a software version. Like it isn't the weirdness of the easel is just, it's very difficult to capture.
Yes.
That said, it's still very, very good, and you get to test out the workflow, which is a huge portion of the device. So I think if these can meet or exceed the sound of that Arturia program, which probably they can, even if they're not perfect, probably they can, and if they can capture the hands-on workflow, because a lot of it, like watching Suzanne Chianni do this thing, it's flipping the sliders all around, and that's really what a lot of it is about. Mm-hmm. And I think that if they can recapture the feel of it, if they can make it accessible price-wise, and if they can get it at least as good as the Arturia recreation, they will have lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
And people going, oh, well, this isn't quite as good as the real thing. It doesn't have the same amount of use in the Eurorack case. It's not as big. It doesn't sound the same. It's not going to matter.
Well, the reality, though, is that it's just the problem with synthesis is it is exponential rather than competitive. So this person is going to go out and buy this thing, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, now I'm going to save my money and get the real deal." I mean, because that's what happened to me. I guess I'm projecting my experiences.
I think here's the other thing is by making this thing Eurorack compatible. Yeah. I mean, you're making it Eurorack compatible. Buchla is not Eurorack compatible, and Buchla is a big that's a big thing that may or may not be limiting their popularity, is that they are not.
Well, freaking 100%.
So
compatible with.
I don't know. Is there?
Yeah, Moog's doing that.
Yeah,
so
and it's gonna make them. The weird synthesis game has really been taken by storm by Make Noise. Mm-hmm. And the no coast and the Strega and the zero control or no control or whatever the thing is called, all of that, and then all of their whack Euro rack modules have really sort of taken some of the best parts of West Coast and the best parts of East Coast and created this brand new, very modern, very experimental synthesis. And I mean, if you're Buchla and you're sitting there on your 1978 music easel, which is awesome, but you're still sitting there on this like thing from the 70s going, I don't know, like,
I wish I had a math.
It's got banana jacks. Yeah, this could be the way that they surge hard.
Do the new easels have any kind of like I/O control, or what do they have here? Do they have any kind of gate or
easel? The easel command has MIDI.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. But no like CV or anything. So you
not standard CV. They have their own
banana
jack thing.
Because that would make sense if they would do that. My gosh, there are digital synths that do that.
Yeah. Latui says, I've got the easel software. I don't mess with software enough, but I've definitely used it for RP sounds and more produced stuff in the past. And they also want to know if there's an audio snob equivalent to the raising a monocle gesture. I would imagine it's turning a knob with your pinky out.
Oh, yeah. It's like it pinkies up when you're drinking tea, right? Same deal.
Yes. Pinky's out.
Or
you're turning a knob.
Comparing to oscilloscope outputs.
Yes. Oh, shit. Wombra's on. So speaking of one more modular piece of news, and that is the other cool table at KnobCon was Modbap Modular. Modbap Modular. Modbap. Yeah, most banana jacks don't have ground, John Haynes. That's what makes them so cheap as opposed to regular jacks. Anyway, Modbap Modular, Corey Banks introduced the Osiris, which is a little module bifidelity wavetable oscillator. It's got 6 timbre modes, including FM and phase modulation, sub-oscillator, lo-fi processing, extensive CV modulation capabilities, a pitch quantizer, 4 banks of 32 by 32 wavetables each, the ability to load user wavetables, an open source wavetable editor, and it sounds so fucking cool. And it's like $360 and it sounds amazing. I played with this thing at KnobCon for about an hour. Until he pretty much told me to leave.
Yeah.
That's about right.
Corey Banks fan. His like sort of blend of hip hop and modular is so unique and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know that he was doing this to this extent, and that is so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I listened to all the demos of this thing. I wasn't at KnobCon, obviously, but yeah, just the sort of the grittiness that you can get with this thing. It's just very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds really, really good. And like how gross you can make it sound, which is lovely. Having that lo-fi mode on a piece of modular equipment that's doing, all this crazy fucking... Yeah, never mind. It's just lovely sounding.
Did you get to play with this one, Robin?
I did not, unfortunately.
Why not?
Because Andrew took up all the time.
Probably.
Just walk up and
I just
kick
hung
him.
out by the Hydrosynth more as a result.
Yeah. That's fair.
But yeah, that's going to be October 1st is when that's going to be available, and I will probably be ordering one for my mod.
Nice.
my modular has actually been kind of neglected lately. I haven't really done much with it. Maybe I should do something with it again. I don't know. I'm getting kind of bored with it. That means I just need to put more modules in there.
Just feed it some money. It's just hungry.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
You have to. What was the Star Trek episode? Oh God, feed Vol. You must feed Vol.
Yes. Yeah. ModBap is a super cool company. For anybody who hasn't looked into what that it's a company, it's products, and it's also a community.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And anybody who is not familiar should get familiar, especially if you have any affinity for like old school hip hop, especially like boom bap hip hop from the 90s. It's very, very cool what they're doing with this, and I am here for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Corey used to be on Sonic State all the time. That's how I became aware of him. And he also did a bunch of NPC demos I remember watching. And yeah, done some really, really, really cool work.
Yeah, watch B-Boy Tech Report. Yep.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's good. It's a great oscillator. It's a sexy oscillator. I need more oscillators. I need more filters.
It sounds like you need more synthesizers.
Yeah, you need more flux capacitors, man.
I don't need
more bank account.
I'll tell you what I tell you what I don't need. On my modular, I don't need another sequencer and I don't need another sampler.
Nice. Do you have the machine that goes bing?
I'm surrounded by a machine that goes bing.
Yeah. Quiet. The administrator's coming. Turn on the machine. Bing.
Bing. Yes.
Sorry, there will be Monty Python references when I'm around. I apologize.
Of course there will be. Dreadbox. Introduce the Nymphus synthesizer. This is a analog polysynth, which is lovely. It's a 6-voice polyphonic synthesizer, with the only thing that's digital on it, I believe, is the reverb and probably the DCOs. Justin decided to fuck off. Next week, Justin will be replaced by a piece of toast. 98 preset memory, 6 different playing modes, MIDI over USB. It's another one of their little compact devices. It has a common LFO, and then another LFO, and it's one LFO per voice, and then a common one, so you can control different things on those kinds of things. It's a neat sounding little guy. It's they're saying it's gonna be about like $600 American.
Yeah.
What are folks' thoughts on this thing?
Did you get to play with this one, Robin?
They did not have it at NobCon.
They
were
weren't
not
there. But I would have tried that if that was the case, because I just love my Typhon so much. I would have really liked to have seen what this looked like in person.
It sounds really good. It sounds nice. I've not seen it at all, but like the audio I've heard on it sounds really good. Dreadbox always impresses the hell out of me. I have a couple of their modules. I like how they're always kind of gritty. Like if I'm going for pretty sounds, I don't go grab anything by Dreadbox.
Well, yeah, I would say, however, they have this is going to be a controversial statement. I think they might have one of the best oscillators in the business. Like just the raw oscillators sound so good on their stuff. It's really crazy. Mm-hmm. The Erebus was my first experience with that. And the V1 had a really dirty analog delay. And it was just so great. How do you like the Typhon, Robin? Do you like it?
Oh, I love it so much. I did not expect that to become one of my favorite synths of my setup. That's now basically one of my primary synths that I use when I compose or stream. I mean, there's like some levels of menu diving, but for the most part, all the accessible knobs to be able to just manipulate so much stuff is just wonderful. And I have it linked to mixed through to my circuit track, so I could be able to use that to sequence it. And it's a dream. It is literally I'll just say over and over again, it's just amazing for the price point. Although I did notice that they actually went up in price recently, so they are more expensive now. Like I managed to get a used one for about $300, and I think now they're like running for like 450, 460 new.
Wow.
Yeah.
You stole that one good. That's a great price.
Yeah, that is very good.
Yeah, I like, it's funny because Wambra says that one of the reasons is that a little resonance always leaks through the filter. So it gives it that nice little nasty sound to it. But it's interesting because I also have, like, the things I have on my modular from them is effects. So I have their white line splash and echo. So I got it's a reverb and a delay. And then I also have their I'm trying to read it, but it's bright orange, the Euphoria, which is a phaser. And even those sound dirty. Like the reverb I love because it just makes everything sound like you're screaming in a factory. And it's just this gritty reverb, and it's a gritty delay, and it's a gritty phaser. I don't know how they do that other than they're Greek. I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Screaming in factories.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing.
A lot of practice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's factory screams. What the fuck I'm talking about.
That's either a new genre as well, or possibly the name of a band, album, or song.
I think Screaming in Factories sounds like a great album.
I think so.
Great band name too. Yeah.
I mean, I can always do like Talk, and have a song, album, and band name being the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think eponymous is the word you're looking for.
Indeed.
I was always disappointed that wasn't literally the only thing they released.
I know, right?
Just, we're a band called Talk. Here's an album. Here's a song. That's it. Peace out. Drop the mic. We're done.
Talk.
Yeah.
And just now we just make remixes of Talk.
Yeah. They put that OBXA to absolutely great use on that album.
I'm also surprised that they actually sang. Why would you have a band called Talk and sing?
Oh,
false advertising.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I was listening. I was like, wait. Oh, yeah. Well, you can't all be Leonard Cohen, man. Sometimes you got to sing. I don't know.
I guess so.
Or like the guys from the B-52s who, I guess, sing. I don't know. Maybe they do.
Fred Schneider?
They talk. Yeah, he kind of talk sings.
He kind of tings.
Tings. Yeah, I don't know.
Socks.
Song. Yeah, nothing good is going to come of this.
No, this is just being terrible. So yeah, the Dreadbox Nymphus polyphonic analog synthesizer. That's a good price for a 6-voice polyphonic synth. It's all analog. If that is your jam, you should jam with that thing. Latui asked, what was the worst thing at KnobCon? Besides the HR guy.
Wait, there was an HR guy?
That's a strong contender right there, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Golden Shrimp Guild HR dictator showed up and passed out and wrote people up. Unfortunately, he had a specific thing for being Wambra, and Wambra didn't show up till Sunday. Little bitch.
We're lucky we got him out on Sunday, period.
No, I didn't get to see Wambra. I'm so disappointed. So, what was the worst thing about KnobCon? For me, it was leaving. Because all my pals were there.
Oh, that's valid. I think for me, it just, again, I think I got a little jealous watching everything that was happening with Super Booth and like seeing all of the rollouts of things. And so I think in one way for a first synthesizer convention, I would have wished there was more vendors. I understand why, given the pandemic, and I'm impressed that the event did what it could to adapt given the circumstances so that they could run it. But honestly, it felt a little underwhelming not being able to have as much access to stuff as I would have liked.
Agree.
But again, understandable. I'm not like disappointed by it, it's totally understandable.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a good point. Is that like I said, there was about a quarter of the vendors that are normally there.
It's usually there's usually so much noise pollution in that room. You can only be in there for like an hour or two before you gotta go.
Yeah, like I brought my earplugs and I didn't have to use them at all. Because that's how quiet it was. And it was weird because I was talking to Enrique and he was like, yeah, there was like, he's like, and they were like, right when you walk in, Novation's stand was right there. And he was like, I think he's like, I kind of did a count and I think I talked to only about 100 people total.
Wow.
Which, I mean, usually NobCon there's like 5 times as that.
For sure.
Yeah, that sounds kind of small. But I mean, I haven't, one thing I haven't heard about any of the news is a mass spreading of COVID from NobCon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Dude, we had a lot of
that news,
and it's not to kill everybody.
It's good, but I mean, it's always like really nice right now to not hear that news.
I mean,
I absolutely
everyone
agree.
was masked up. Everyone, they did a lot of social distancing stuff. Like the classrooms, they opened up to like the full size of the places and had everyone spread out and that kind of thing.
They closed the banquet and converted that to an outdoor tent performance instead.
Yeah, they didn't put everyone in the basement this time for Saturday night. They moved that out into the tent.
Did they have a vax requirement, Andrew?
They did not have a vax requirement, but they did have a mask mandate. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because Lollapalooza had a vax requirement.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think, considering how many people were there in comparison, I think that was probably sensible. So.
Yeah, that's. I just bought tickets to go see a show, and they also have a vax requirement. I think it's going to become a lot more common now that
I'm seeing that quite a bit.
The White House has made that statement about employers needing to mandate vaccinations.
Yeah. I bought tickets to a concert and they just postponed it. It said can dance, so they're not playing now. So
I heard that, Andrew.
Which is okay. I'm okay with that right now because I already went to Chicago once, and I don't need to make that drive so quickly. The next month, so I'm okay with hanging out home.
They postponed the Gary Newman show here too, and it's happening on some legs of the tour, but not on others. And that was the one here was postponed.
Well, I know that his whole U.S. tour got postponed.
Yeah. Some of the dates were happening.
He posted up on it that he decided to postpone all of them.
Okay.
I don't know. So it's I'm glad that no one caught the Rona at the NobCon. I would imagine like Superbooth was even more spread out than NobCon. I was watching Bo's video.
They're like outdoors in these like Quonset huts.
I know. I'm like, oh, you're in the Enchanted Fairy Forest, not Bo.
Yeah, the whole thing was approached with this stereotypical German efficiency that I really liked.
I know, right? It's so weird. And that's one of the things I really want to go to Superbooth and experience. That it's just kind of weird,
Weird. I would love to go to Superbooth.
We have to make a plan after the pandemic is done that we all fly out to Superbooth.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I would love that.
I decided that the only way that I will ever meet Jeff face to face is if we were both in another country.
What's really funny is I went to Wave Gothic Treffen, what was it, in 2019, and I started meeting all these people from Chicago that I didn't know in Chicago. I'm like, here I am in like, Leipzig, Germany.
Well, that's just it,
Where
right?
Are you from?
No, it's like there's people that live on the other side of Cleveland that I like Sam. I haven't seen Sam since the last NobCon.
Sure. Right.
And so you go, yeah, hey Sam, you live 20 minutes from me. Where the fuck have you been?
Right. I think I saw him at the Boy Harsher show. Was the last time I saw him, and that would have been a COVID disaster because we were now that's class.
Oh, there's nothing classy about that joint.
Yeah, it was like way beyond like fire marshal standards. There's,
Oh
like,
yeah. Now that's classed
so
as
many-
one of those places that if somebody has a urinary tract infection, everyone will get it, even if you never use the bathroom there.
It's so bad.
It's
Sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, it's lovely. It's the best place ever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, can we make the rest of the news tonight? We'll find out. Presonus, speaking of Studio One, that I couldn't remember what they were called. Presonus has released a update to Studio One. Now it's Studio 5.4, giving it support for the Apple native M1, native support for the M1 Silicon chip, which is a lovely piece of gear unto itself. They turned on this thing called Plugin Nap, which I've been playing with, and it's actually really, really nice. In that if you're not, that plugin ain't being used, it takes a nap and then it doesn't interfere through processor, which is great if you're running 24 tracks of Omnisphere and 16 tracks of Arturia's SQ80 plugin, but not all at the same time. Justin, you're max headrooming out. You're entering the matrix. I don't know what he's saying. I think he's completely frozen now. Yep. So we'll get back to that question a little bit there, Justin, because we couldn't understand you at all. Other things it does is it has, it will now export multiple different formats in one pass, so you don't have to like do one pass per thing. Justin, you're back, and I think you can talk now. So your entire question sounded like Max Headroom was getting a blowjob.
Yeah. I had to come back. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Let's try it again. What'd you ask?
No. This plugin app, I thought that VST3s did that natively. So my question was, is this something that works on all plugins, including, audio units and everything else?
Yeah, it works on VST2s and it runs on AUs as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Such a cool feature.
It is. Exporting multiple formats in one pass is also lovely because generally when I'm done mixing something, I will make an MP3 version of it, and a AIFF and a WAV file. And then just for good measure, I'll make a FLAC. So having be able to just do all that at once is lovely. Real-time chord display. I don't know what that does because I don't know any music stuff. So I'm sure it's awesome for people that know what music does. The updated plugin manager is handy as hell. I went through that because I have, for whatever reason, I decided to, because I jump between so many DAWs, I install everything. So I install both AUs and VSTs. I don't really know why. I just do that. So my plugins look like a fucking mess. Would one feel a blowjob with Max Headroom?
Wait a minute.
Yes, digitally.
Would Max Headroom or would another person?
Yeah, would Max Headroom feel the blowjob is the other question.
Oh, that's a tough question.
I know, right?
It's getting into like Schrodinger's cat kind of territory.
It is. It kind of is.
A little bit.
Schrodinger's blowjob. Yeah.
Just a tad.
If it's a digital, it's a blowjob or a hand job. If it's an analog, it's a hand job.
Whoa.
Anyway, the updated plugin manager is quite handy because I was able to go through and very quickly permanently disable the VST3 or the AU version of whatever things, or the VST2 version of whatever I have installed. And it turns it off permanently in there until I turn it back on, which is nice. Performance optimization, autosave, actually autosaves nice. It doesn't stop everything to save your work, which is nice.
Yeah, because I noticed those CPU spikes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
And you can now go through and remove all the plugins at once instead of going through each, if you want to, instead of going individually for like your sends and stuff like that.
Nice.
So just like some quality of life improvements and stuff like that, and some workflow fixes and that kind of thing. But I do like that they are just, again, I always like companies that are constantly working on their stuff and updating it and giving you what you need. So yeah. Thank you, Studio One. If you folks that are not using Studio One, you can give it a trial and give it a test drive. DAWs are kind of a dime a dozen, and all of them do very similar kinds of things. All of them have their own unique little quirks, and Studio One is probably the least quirky of all of them, at least in my opinion, because it just does what it needs to do, and it does it very well.
Yeah, it's bread and butter. If you don't want it to get in your way.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna pull the plug on gasp stopping using a Porter Studio like a caveman, is that the one that I should like? I don't love Logic these days. It's just so heavy duty for like I don't use the MIDI stuff. I don't want to use the drummer. There's just so much stuff in it that I don't want at all.
Well, we could take this offline, and I'm sure we all have opinions. But I went through this long experimentation phase, and I guess Andrew did too, where you just like you try all the DAWs.
Yeah.
And it really boils down to what you want to do with it. To me, Studio One was the most bread and butter, but also feature-rich, but also stable, and also had a nice UI. So those are things that were important to me. So
this might be a great time for somebody to pick up Studio One. It's just been updated.
Yep.
I think so.
I think
Absolutely.
so.
Good time.
Wambra says, "Oh, you use a Porter Studio? Which one?" Jeff, do tell.
We could have a whole friggin' show on Jeff's Porter Studio knowledge.
On my desk right now, I have a DP32 and a 424 Mark III.
Boom. Isn't Studio One a Rasta label? I don't know. Is it?
Or like Island Records, that kind of Rasta label.
Right? Literally says it boils down to sunk cost fallacy. You use the DAW you spend the most on.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like I used Logic for years and years, and that one was like I got that because I'm an Apple consultant and they gave it to me for free.
I liked it for a very long time, but then they've added so much stuff to it that it's too much now.
Yeah.
It's just like it's too heavy in ways that I don't
My
like.
problem, Jeff, was its ability to record simultaneous inbound audio. It just had some issues. Now, mind you, I'm using an older Mac, so that was probably part of the equation.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I like Reason a lot too. Like my three favorites are Logic, Reason, and Studio One. One of these things is not like the other. Because Logic and Reason, because it's funny. Yeah, Logic and Reason. And then Studio One has just been fantastic though. Latui says they're a Bitwig dork. I tried Bitwig for a year, and there were some things that it didn't do from a user experience standpoint that made me want to punch it in the fucking face. So I just got rid of it. But
I forget, Robin, what DAW do you use? Or are you
I don't use a DAW.
That's right, your DAW.
dollars.
See, she's going to be holding the torch when you go start using Studio.
Right.
I mean, does the Deluge count as a DAW? I mean, that's pretty much the closest thing that's going to be.
Kind of is.
For sequencing before, was it this? I forget. You said last time, and I have terrible memory. But
Well, I mean, currently I use this Circuit Tracks for all my sequencing and clock.
Cool.
But yeah,
nice.
that might start shifting a bit to the Deluge for certain things.
Cool.
Eventually, it'll all be Deluge. Deluge is all the way down, sister.
You guys, it's like a friggin' cult. You guys, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I blame Andrew. Can't imagine why. Only been hounding me for months on this.
I told you you'd like it once you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're seeing all the crazy shit it does, and it's like, that's alcohol. Anyway. So yes, Studio One 5.4. Cool. Jeff, give it a try.
I'll figure out how to install it on my Tascam.
Perfect. I think they have it on cassettes, so you can just like load it. I think it's a Commodore 64, VIC 20, and Tascam.
Perfect. Yeah.
compatible, so you're good to go.
If you get a Raspberry Pi or an emulator, it'll be fine. You'll be
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No problems. Next up on our list. Oh my God, we have 15 minutes left. Can we do all this, or will we run over? The nice thing about this show
Let's
is
try.
that we can run over. All we have to worry about is
True.
the fact that Jeff and I get really tired really quick.
I was gonna say, don't you have a bedtime curfew?
Shutting down.
It's not your fault, Andrew. You're a habitual early riser. man. There's nothing
My
you can do about it.
circadian rhythms are very much in line with the sun. So
Yep.
Yeah. Mine are somewhere between, Vlad Dracula and, 17-year-olds. I'm not really sure what's going on.
it's true. Sue at Super Booth, and not at NobCon, so it's not as important.
Not as important, Con, is that what you-
Exactly. Yeah. Waldorf has announced the Waldorf M, a modern take on the iconic microwave wavetable synthesizers. So this is a very pretty looking, new, not cheap synth from Waldorf.
Crazy. A not cheap synth from Waldorf.
I know, right? Another $2,000 synth.
In the same enclosure as the last one's weird. They just keep having such great ideas on how they can fit these things into this enclosure in an almost same UI. It's wild.
I know, right? It's almost like they're just reprogramming a chip or something like that.
Crazy.
I really have so much to say about this. I almost should be quiet.
Go.
But
Justin,
No,
go.
wait, let's hear this. Go.
boom. Here's the thing. The oscillators sound badass. Okay. This sounds just like that gritty sort of PPG Waldorf wave style. And this is the kind of wavetables that you like. And the analog filters on this thing sound brilliant. They sound that whole part of the signal chain sounds so good. There's no effects in it, which is an interesting choice. But they really don't need it because they sound really, really, really good. That being said, I can change the fidelity of my wavetables in the Iridium, which is just a couple more $100, and I also get all those other types of synthesis, including FM and yada yada yada. So it's almost like they're not sure if it's like a recreation sort of vintage piece or whether they're selling you something that's usable by sort of modern standards. I feel like it's neither fish nor fowl, and I have a problem with that. I don't know who's going to spend that much money on this thing. The oscillators sound great. You can pick up a microwave XT rack mount or, for about the same price or less and get the same stuff. So I don't know. I don't know who they're targeting here. You're right, Jeff. They're using the same chassis as the Kyra and the Iridium. And if I had to do over, as much as I love the sound of the analog on here, I would probably pick the Iridium again just because of the flexibility. That's just my opinion.
There you go.
Also, the LCD or LED screen or whatever they're using on the M looks like the one on the Kyra, which might win the award for worst digital interface on a hardware synth since 1996.
Oh, really?
Interesting. Yeah, I
It
didn't
is-
realize that too much. Yeah.
It is an aggressively bad interface.
Now,
It has things like it just weirdly placed together, and that actually was one of the things that I just had flashbacks of it because I had the thing, and it's one of the best sounding synths I've ever heard. The Kyra's is amazing, and it has the most bizarre decisions in the interface that I have ever seen. It has 4,096 single cycle waveforms arranged almost randomly. There's no like data knob or anything. You have to tap a button every time you want to go through it. There's no computer interface for this thing, so you're just using MIDI CC via your DAW to go through it if you're trying to do it that way. Things are bizarrely connected because they did it with, like, they clearly fit this thing into this chassis. That's why I brought that up, is because they had I can't remember who the original designer was. It was a man who had designed the Kyra. It was a Valkyrie.
A British guy, but he had a Spanish name.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy that did all the R&D for this thing, and somehow Waldorf came along and
Well, yes, they bought it from him, but they took it and they crammed it in that chassis because they were very clearly building the Iridium at the same time, and so they fit into that chassis. And then they made all these decisions about the UI for it that were related to the chassis and the knobs that they could put it onto. And so there's stuff that for sure would have made sense in the original design that this man had made, but you had to go like 3 or 4 pages deep in the filter menu to change the amp envelope.
Well, it's got to be about money because the Iridium has a nice touch screen, and I can get a lot done on that thing. I can get a lot with the macro knobs too. You can do a lot with the knobs, but you toggle between screens. It's really delightful workflow, in my opinion.
The Iridium was great.
If they had done something like that here, the problem is probably just cost, right? If you're putting in a bunch of what I think are Curtis clone filters, and you're putting in all analog VCAs, and that starts to get pricey. That's what made the Quantum pricey too. So, so I don't know.
Yeah, I like the sound of the original microwave. I think that was a great sounding piece of gear. I mean, but then I like the old school, like, late 90s EBM industrial music and stuff like that. So of course I'm going to be like, fuck yeah, Forma Tadra use this thing, How Job use this thing, give to daddy. But at the same token, is it worth the $2,000 for nostalgia? No, not to me.
Who's going to buy it? I mean, there'll be some boutiquers, but again, I would rather have a big, ugly orange Waldorf XTK,
Or I'll just use a plugin,
Yeah, which I saw one in person, which is pretty funny because I may have told the story, but I'm getting old, so I'll tell it again. But I was in a gutter center in the one in North Olmsted, and there was the XTK there, and this guy that worked there was real cool, named Craig. I don't think he works anymore, but I guess what's his face, Cortini or whatever, the guy who's like Nine Inch Nails sort of synth guy.
Alessandro Cortini.
Yeah, he called him up because he knew Craig and was like, "Hey, I saw on your website," which it's great that Alessandro Cortini is doing the same thing I used to do, which is like scroll through the used section of Guitar Center, because at that time they had no fucking clue what they had. So I bought like a Profi 600 for like sub $800 because they had no idea. But they caught on.
Uh-oh. Story's getting ruined by Max Headroom getting a blowjob again.
Unsubscribe.
There's a moral to this story.
What? No analog blowjobs?
Only digital. No digital blowjobs, apparently. Only analog. So you get a computer virus. Oh my God, that was dumb. So I can finish the story if you want, Justin, because you're gone. He lived happily ever after. Alessandro Cortini got this microwave XT from. No, I think we lost him. All right. Does anyone else have anything to say about the Waldorf M before we move on?
Arturia.
Yep, on target.
On to Arturia. All right. Our good friends and not our sponsors at all, Arturia, have released the SQ80V. If you are a fan of the original Ensoniq SQ80, the 80s crosswave synth, then the SQ80V is the synth for you. It's sounds really fucking good. I ended up picking it up because, why not? They have an intro price of $99, and they actually had I had not upgraded my V-Synth stuff in a long time, and they gave me like a really good deal. It was like $129 or something like that to upgrade all of them. So I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll do that.
Nice.
So I got the SQ82. I cut my synth teeth on an ESQ1, so it's just kind of like, oh, this is lovely. It's a nice little, SQ80 is the successor to the ESQ1, which is a beautiful sounding synth. If you listen to mid-80s Depeche Mode especially, the Ensoniq is all over their stuff as far as that's concerned. So that's a really nice sounding piece of gear. And again, Arturia fucking killed it with this. It's great sounding. It's a great interface, and yeah, I think that's interesting that the Ensoniq interface is very similar to the Hydrosynth interface as far as like the buttons and everything like that, and the progression of the buttons. It's just the first thing I thought when I sat down in front of a Hydrosynth is, oh, this is an Ensoniq interface. This is really cool. So so the SQ80V comes with. They made some improvements on it, of course, because it's Arturia, so they do their own little things to it. They give it better ARPs. They give it more voices. Yeah, it's just a really good sounding. Yeah. So yeah, folks, thoughts on that? I know Justin. Oh, hi, Justin, you're back.
So
Hi.
Our entire network went down for a second. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I finished your story for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It ended up with you like in an alley.
That's where most of my stories end up. It's fair.
Yeah.
So I actually have SQ80, and here's the deal. I love my SQ80. I was trying to flog it. I was trying to sell it, and I pulled it off a reverb because I went and played it, and I was like, God, this thing sounds good. I have problems. But so now to be fair, I sold 4 synths in a row, so I'm not a hoarder. I promise. But
he's bought 6 since then.
Okay, I bought 1 in a drum machine. I know, I got problems. But I have this thing where it's like I kind of feel like if I can get more beer money with beer, then I'm in good shape. Like I just can't go above it, I can't go out of my cushion of reverb bucks. Anyway, so the thing is with this is I have the software. I'm an Arturia person. I feel like they always get there about 80%, 85%. But to your point, they add so many cool bells and whistles, and it's such a cool interface, and it's so much more reliable and easy to use, and yada yada. And they pulled out all of those hidden ESQ1 and SQ80 waveforms that you had to physically hack the device to get it to work in the past, which creates some delightful weirdness. But I just really love this transwave stuff. And it's kind of like wavetables. It's kind of not. It's kind of single cycle, kind of not. Kind of weirdness, super digital sounding. But you pair it. Here's my only complaint, and I'm going to sound like a million jerks, like on Gear Junkies. So let me just push my glasses up when I say this. There's something about the Curtis filters on my SQ80 that this doesn't have. There's something about that mojo. It just can't. For example, I don't need reverb because I can just turn the release up on the filter and it sounds so good. Mm-hmm. So SQ80V doesn't do that exactly, but it's so many other things really cool. Mm-hmm. And there's so many more things you could do with this you couldn't do with the SQ80. So they're really kind of overlapping rather than replacing.
Absolutely.
A little cheaper than buying an SQ80 too.
Which surprisingly they aren't expensive. I'm kind of hedging my bets that they're going to get more expensive when people play with the software and like it. Because I was selling mine for around $700, which is about the asking price. Wow. Yeah, for real. And I have the only thing wrong with mine is the battery is on its way out. But I bought a new battery. But you have to solder it onto the. Yeah, so it's a bit of a PETA. But the way most people do it now is they solder the holder onto the thing, and then you.
Yeah, when I was at NodCon, someone was selling an ESQ1 for $350.
What?
And it was one of the few synth vendors. It was the guys up in Minneapolis.
Nice.
And I almost bought it.
Dude, that was the first time I jammed with you. It was SQ. Yeah. We both had Sonic gear. I had the EPS 16 and you had the ESQ.
Yep, and I almost bought it. And I went back to go, okay, I'm going to go back, and if it's there, I'm going to buy it. And it wasn't there, so it was not to be had that day. So, but yeah. And it was, the guy went through and refurbed the whole thing and put new caps in there and new battery and all that other stuff. And I was like, and I was playing it, and I'm like, oh, this is so lovely. But yeah, didn't get it. Well, oh well. I did get the SQ80V, though.
Nice.
Aw,
that's great fun.
Wambra gifted a sub to Litui. Thanks, Wambra. That's really sweet of you. Just for that extra reactor time for you. Thanks, buddy.
It's the gift that keeps on
It
giving.
is. Generations to come. Moving on, the Moog Sound Studio was released. Oh, wow. TotoRobyn, you got subscribed to my channel.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Wambra.
Wambra. Thought that she was already subscribed, but guess I don't rate.
I'm busy here. I can't sub that. Jeez. I juggle so many things here.
Over here.
Well, Robin, it was great having you on. I keyed. Anyway, yeah, the Moog Sound Studio, they just came out with this thing, which is basically all three of their mother formatted devices. The Mother 32, the DFAM, and the Subharmonicon. And they also put in some other treats in there as well.
Yeah, that's the story.
Which is really the cool thing,
the
right?
widgets.
The widgets, the toys that they put in this thing. Because, okay, so I have a Mother 32, I have a Subharmonicon, I have a DFAM. Actually, I have two Mother 32, so technically I have a Mother 64. And yeah, it's a fun, it's so much exploration in those three little boxes. It's insane. So they put them all together, and then, which is great enough, but then they gave you all this other ridiculous stuff. Tell them what they've won, Bob.
Toys.
They gave you toys.
Brand new cards.
Lots of fun toys.
Well, besides the 3-tier dust cover, which is, albeit lovely, they also have a deck of cards that they stole from the Golden Shrimp Guild, the idea completely. Fuckers.
What jerks.
Right? That's basically, it's patch ideas that you can lay out like a little game, and you can patch these things together. They tell you how to patch, and then you can do make your sounds like that, which I think that's kind of a slick idea. I like that.
They switched that up too, because the sound studios that they were doing with the 2-packs, they had dice instead as the thing they would do. So it's interesting to see that they're changing it up and using the card approach for this 3-tier.
Yes. I want a deck of those cards.
You have to with the 3 tiers, I think.
I want a deck of these cards, but you can only get it with the kit, and that makes me sad.
And that little mixer that they
That's what I was gonna say.
That little mixer,
I want them to sell that mixer.
Looks very good, and I would love to have my Moog stack of stuff over here on a sub mixer.
Yep.
Yes.
Same. I want them to sell that unit separately. Yes. There's a lot of people that seem to want that.
Yeah, and then there's the patch cable rack, which is actually very cool. That hangs on the back. Top back.
Well, wait. We also need to make mention of the fact that mixer also has a 3-way power distributor in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant.
It's drool. Sell it separately, please.
They're taking small cars and turning them into Fiats. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's you get inside, it's leather and mahogany. You're like, this is a little car. What's going on?
It smells of leather and rich mahogany.
Smells of fine Corinthian leather.
The
leather, which isn't
power,
right?
The power plugs for these things are dumbass.
Yes.
That's what they are. If anybody has not seen the AC adapter for a Mother 32 or DFAM, hey, spoiler alert, it's half the size of the Mother 32.
Agreed.
You can't fit them in most power strips. They're ridiculous.
Yes.
Wait, so it's like a brick power supply, external power?
Yeah, it's
really thick. Yeah.
So why not just do the rolling trick and put the brick in between two cables?
Well, yeah.
I don't know. They're also, if you've ever pulled the mothers out of their boxes.
That's very lyrical, man. You're being really lyrical tonight.
They are not deep. They're quite shallow.
Oh yeah, they're just a circuit board.
You could have fit the power supply inside the box, Moog. It would have fit. Put it in the box.
Wow, that's perspective right there.
Yeah, it sounded like a Morrissey lyric, Jeff. That's what it was. Some Moog mothers' power supplies are bigger than other Moog mothers.
It's just... it frustrates me to absolutely no end. The situation with these power supplies.
Yeah.
It's as bad as 49 key keyboards. Every bit.
You know, I'm going to design a dream synth just for you, Jeff. It's going to be great.
It's going to be
You're gonna
It's going to have
48 keys.
6 power supplies. Yeah, 48 keys.
47 and a half keys.
It has
9 3/4.
It has instead of knobs or faders or anything like that, it has a screen and like a balance level that you have to. That's the interface. You just have to like labyrinth the things together to
What's
get
the
down
weird
the
little
menus.
wood pedal thing that they put on the
The Morphe.
Yeah,
Morphe.
the Morphe. That's what you use.
On
That's
the,
what you use to interface to navigate the menus on this.
Yeah,
perfect. It's going to be like an M Audio Venom where you need like a giant fat client app to run the synth and it won't even work. I think it's going to be great, Jeff. You're going to love it.
I can't wait. I can't wait. It's got 100 knobs and none of them do anything.
They're just on there.
Just there.
They're actually fridge magnets.
It's just there.
I'm calling Alex Hartman, man. Tomorrow we're going to design this thing.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah, so as far as the power brick thing, there's this thing called the Power Squid, which I highly recommend because that takes care of any of the issues that you might have with your wall warts.
The squid is the shit, man. I went and bought one because we used it for Spooky and it was just too damn useful.
So the Power Squid, for those that don't know, is kind of like a power strip. I happen to have one right over here. Let me grab it for you. Talk amongst yourselves.
It's just feeling real.
Only it's made of squids.
Yeah, then.
Oh, I see it.
Oh.
Look at that cephalopod goodness. Yeah.
All right.
Breaks them all out. Easy peasy. They cost like $15 on Amazon.
They have a new model, and it has a different colored receptacle for each of the cables, so you can see what's plugged into what easier.
That is witchcraft.
Okay. Know what I'm ordering
Yes.
tonight. Thank you.
We here at Tangents, I like the fact that people are like, yeah, this synth is okay. This synth, I need that fucking power strip.
Right. You got to dream big, Andrew.
Man,
Come on.
we needed like an affiliate link.
Yep.
Yeah. Everyone else is like, wow, look at that memory Moog. I'm like, that power supply's pretty cool.
Right?
Yeah,
seriously.
Power Squid, you say?
Relax.
I seriously should set up like an affiliate store and just be like, check out all this dumb stuff that you never knew you needed.
Right?
It's just tangents of the gear.
Yeah.
It's just like whatever the weird rabbit hole of gear takes you down.
That's a good point. Latui says they should also sell a box with blinky lights that looks like a famous synth so more streamers can get in on the awe and wonder of leaving your synths on the background of your stream.
The Hydrosynth fancy
I know,
dance
right?
mode is so very good.
See,
I've never noticed that before. That is awesome.
what Latui doesn't understand is the fact that I'm actually using a green screen right now, and I'm sitting on a toilet, and I've been literally shitting for the past 2 hours.
I just can't stop.
All I do is eat. All I do is eat fiber all day, just for this show. And I hold it in for 2 weeks, just for you.
Hey, did you know that Erica since made a new drum synth? Has anybody heard about this? This is
It's electrifying.
Look at that.
Tell us more about this.
It doesn't have anything to do with the toilet. I don't know. It's
Now, Jeff, is what you're doing. You're like, I'm sorry, Captain. I have to relieve you of duty.
it's
Take a duty right now for me to do.
it's the Percons. Was this it? Was this at
No,
Adoncon?
it was not. This is a lesser synth because they were
was
not
on
there.
I wish.
Or I like to call it the Porkins, named after Jeb Porkins from Star Wars, who died tragically during the attack on the Death Star.
Mhm.
Wow.
It's good. It's an interesting color.
I wasn't sure if that was
I
the
like
lighting.
the clicky switches.
This is like a weird blue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stands
It
out.
does. It sounds
cool.
really cool.
It
Yeah,
does.
If I didn't already
Yeah, that's-
have the last drum machine I would ever need, I would seriously consider this one.
If it wasn't $1,600,
It's
I would
also
seriously
no,
consider this one.
it's like $2,000 in American bucks.
It's so yeah. The price point's definitely a haltering fact, but it's just amazing otherwise.
Yep.
Yep. It's gonna be
Charles.
really. it's going to be really good. I will say, though, I think this one is going to do the thing that a lot of stuff like this does, where you're probably going to start seeing these on the used market because it is way more than almost anybody is going to want.
Yeah.
It's a lot to it, but it's a lot. There's a lot to it, and also it's kind of limited in some other respects. So I can see it being the kind of thing that you're going to, see pop up on the used market. I also think you're going to see sample packs of this thing turn out pretty quick, because that's, for the right person, it's a killer interface. For everybody else, it's not. But the sound of it is really good.
I mean, it's kind of in Vermona territory, right? Like in terms of.
Oh. Yep.
Yeah, it
Like
sounds cool, but it's just, it's kind of like the Tempest. Like, that sounded really cool, but it popped up on the used market really quickly.
Yeah.
And then when they stopped making it, then it suddenly got really expensive again on the used market, and that's when I sold mine. Because I got the last drum machine I'll ever need.
And what is
that?
It
would be the Analog Rhythm. The last drum machine I'll ever need. Does everything I want it to. Fight me.
It's a very. Yeah, the only people that I know that it doesn't work for are people that like super tight tuned bass drums. They might have a bit of a hard time with it, but other than that, I love the rhythm, and I'll never sell it. So I'm with you.
I'm a rather sloppy musician, and I am far from the type of person I would consider to be a perfectionist when it comes to things like, does my kick drum sound okay? I know my snare sounds like shit. That's half the fun of it.
I think there's some styles that are using the bass drum almost in lieu of a bass, and so they're trying to tune it.
But yeah, no, I'm a big proponent of that. But yeah, the Erica Synths, this thing looks really cool. I like the color. I'll give them that. The color's fantastic. $2,000 is a fair chunk of change, though.
This is a niche thing.
Yeah.
This is niche.
Yeah.
And their stuff's expensive anyway. I mean, like, their techno system's expensive, and they have that. What's that thing? They have like the new baby drum machine too, or relatively new. It's only a couple months old.
That one's relatively affordable.
Yeah, I've been drooling over that one.
Very good.
Yes, it does. They're very digital sounding drum machine.
Their stuff sounds really good and just really dirty and mean a lot of the times, which is where that's where I want my drum sounds. I was going to say
it sits in your ballywick because I know you like the dirty sound.
That's right. That's why I like about the DFAM so much.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I love my DFAM. I would not get rid of my DFAM because that's not a drum machine.
Yep. Just a machine that makes good drum noises.
Exactly. You know how this works. So
it can be so many things.
Yet here we are. Oh my God, we're almost done, guys. Can we do this? We're already 11 past 11.
We can do it.
All right.
Yes.
Let's blast through this. Okay, Bespoke, a new free open source software modular DAW is out. This is a little bit like VCV Rack, only it does not really have that skeuomorphic style that VCV does. Which this reminds me a lot of the interface-wise. This reminds me a lot of the Magic Visualizer tool. I don't know if folks are familiar with that or not. It's a pretty popular graphic visualizer for Mac and Windows for making it's audio reactive, it's MIDI reactive, and it's all built into these modules that they're very similar as far as the interface is concerned.
It's called Magic Visualizer. Yeah. I'm not familiar with it.
It's really cool.
It's fun. Has anybody else downloaded Bespoke
Not yet?
I got it, and it's really fun to play with. It's the guy who made it doesn't have much or any experience I read with Eurorack, which means he kind of came to it without some of the baggage in some ways. It's very weird. It's very cool. It has some strange hiccups and some really interesting things that it does super well. The interface reminds me a little of Pure Data too. But it's very easy to get up and running. It's very fun, and you can make some whack noise with it real quick. It's
So you
good.
say he's not experienced with Eurorack. You mean he actually has money left in his checking account? That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah. That's right.
Latui
but
apparently
it's cool.
has been using it in some of their streams and it's in their
Cool.
VOD. So I just put a link up onto Latui. So make sure to follow them, and that way you can check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is so I like their pricing model is free. They have 3 different versions. They have Bespoke, Bespoke Plus, and Bespoke Pro. The only difference is that Bespoke costs $5 more and gives you $5 fewer in your pocket, and Bespoke Pro is $15 and gives you $15 fewer in your pocket. This is literally on their
Love
website. So that's or you can also like leave them a tip on Ko-fi. But yeah, that's the only differences. This looks really cool. I'm looking forward to downloading it and at least like messing with it a little bit. Latui says they're using it to route their audio instead of waiting for their DAW to spin up. And that's a good idea. I like that.
It does load very fast. It's got a neat feature where it will just save the last 30 minutes of audio you've played through
That's
it,
cool.
which is kind of cool. It's it would be something, Robin, you might be even interested in, even not wanting to use a DAW because it does not feel like one. It feels like an instrument. It's its own thing. Like it doesn't have faders. It's just like a weird computer instrument. It's cool. I had a lot of fun playing with it.
I'll definitely try it.
And it's totally free.
Which also
Unless
helps.
you want the Pro version,
Yeah.
which is $15.
You know, and even I would do something like that just for the amount of effort put into something like this. I truly support open source efforts, so that wouldn't bother me even if I didn't end up using it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a neat program. I think anybody who's had any interest in it is well advised to check it out. And VCV, I find, because by and large a lot of modular just sort of doesn't appeal all that much to me. I like semi-modular stuff a lot, but when it gets into like you have to make every connection to make it work, it gets, I don't know. This feels more semi-modular to me than fully modular. Because you're not having to wire everything up. Like you have to wire the sequencer to the noisemaker, but it's not quite so detailed as VCV, and so it winds up being I found like easier and quicker.
Oh, that's motivating to know. That's cool.
Yeah, it took me maybe 3 minutes after loading it to have made something.
Wow.
It wasn't a good thing, but I had it running. It was a very, very short learning curve.
Awesome.
Oh, check out Bespoke. The price is right for free. You put it on your computer, and it will change your life, make you more attractive to the person of your choice. And
You'll laugh, cry, change your life.
You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss no bucks goodbye. So, another news. The Super 6 desktop was announced and is now currently sitting on a boat somewhere in the middle of the ocean,
Allegedly.
waiting for Jeff to swim by and pick it up. So this guy is rather cute. Is there any difference between this and besides the fact that there's no keys on it and it's white?
It has slightly different sized faders. They're a little smaller. But it can be poly-chained with the regular Super 6. Otherwise, I think that's it.
Okay.
This thing's killer. The keyboard on the Super 6 is very good. And so I think, if you have the space for it, it's worth getting the big one. The difference in price isn't huge. It's only a couple $100 bucks. They're fairly close together, but I would actually consider getting it as an addition to this one, like sell off something else. But I don't know, for anybody who is considering at all the Super 6, it is the best sounding synthesizer I have ever used.
Do you have any videos on your YouTube channel of it in action?
I don't have anything on my YouTube. I should put some. I need to make some stuff up there. There's a little bit of there's some of me playing it on the on my Instagram, which is jeff.makes.noise.
Put a link up on that.
Yeah, there is some stuff there. Yeah, I can do that.
Just trying to help you out, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate you. But it's cool. It's a very, very good synthesizer, and the desktop one is, I think, as desktop synths go, pretty compelling. It's funny because it uses a lot of the same kinds of stuff as the Hydrosynth. Like you can do some really funky routings in it. It doesn't have all the mutators and things like that, but it does have a bunch of different waves in it, and then you can do a lot more with it than it's, because it's all just like face controls on it. There's no menus, but you can do a lot more with it than you would think that you could from looking at it. It is a lot more versatile than I would have expected. I mean, like, as comparing it to something like the Korg Prologue 16, it is, I don't know, it is multiplicatively more versatile than that is.
That's a big word.
I don't know. Do what I can. It's for sure several times more capable. And then just the sound of it is nuts. So if anybody's not excited about this thing, you should get excited about it, because it's probably, I think it's like one of the most exciting synths that's come out in many years.
There you go. And
I think you turn that into an adverb, and it really blew my mind. But
I know, right? Yeah. I'm still stuck on that. So yeah, this is an exciting piece of gear. I'm trying to see if there's an MSRP on it yet.
I think it's like $24.95 or something, or $23.95.
$23.99 at Perfect Circuit. It's available for pre-order right now.
It was only a little bit less than the big one, which is $2,800. So it's not an inexpensive synth. But it doesn't feel, it definitely doesn't feel overpriced.
Yeah. That's a crazy, I mean, the stuff that you were playing with it on your Instagram sounds amazing. It's just mean, it's gritty, it's fun.
And it does things that don't even sound like a subtractive synth. Like I had this up earlier. Oh, turn it on. You can do all these things that sound very FM-y with it. I don't know. It's weird, but it's fun.
I like weird. Obviously, look at me. So there you go. Buy one today. It'll change your life. Oh my God, one last piece of news, and then we're done. So the people that really should be sponsoring us, Cheery Audio, and sending us free stuff, because we talk about them almost every week, have once again released something new, and that is the Mercury 4, which is an emulation of the Roland Jupiter 4. Justin, you own this already.
I do. I love this before. If you go back and listen to the eponymous Duran Duran album, this is all over that album and parts of Rio, and it's a really cool. It's kind of like the Pro Mars with polyphony. So it's got that real Rolandy sound if you like it, and I do like that sound, and it's nice. It's very, very nice. I mean, their stuff is like, part of me is sort of skeptical that it's snake oil, because you're like, did they just recreate this interface and tinker with a few things? Are they the software version of Behringer? But in a way, they're not, because I really notice it. And one thing that really shocked me on this thing was the quality of their emulation of the Roland Space Echo. So I own, obviously, the Arturia Space Echo, plug-in. I have multiple guitar pedals that are supposed to emulate the Space Echo, because I just can't justify paying for a non-mediable, ancient device. But if you like a lot of IDM or a lot of stuff from, from 80 to about 2000, the space that goes all over the place, their emulation sounds great, and it's right on board with the synth itself, and really allows to get some nice, gritty, cool polyphony. And it's 16, which is obviously way more than the original 4-voice. I actually kind of like the idea of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I played with it quite a bit, and the presets on it are really great. It's super easy to program, and if you like the sound, I know a lot of people are comparing it to some of the Roland Cloud stuff, but because the ProMars, I think, really is basically a monophonic version of the Jupiter 4. And you'll get various opinions about it, but for what this thing is charging, it's totally worth it.
It's $40.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Sure is.
As usual.
Just like all Cherry Audio. Yeah. It's
So if you're a DAW user that likes plugins, this is a good one. Buy it today. It'll change your life. Email them. Tell them to send us free copies of it. Tell us we sent them. Tell them we sent you. They'll set us up.
Yeah.
who? Who was it?
Your buddies at Tangents. Wow, this thing is my new popper stopper is really loud. It's metal.
Nice.
Metal. Anyway. Wow. So, anybody have any final words? Robin.
Just like I said, I think, especially someone new to synthesizers, I think being able to go to something like a convention like KnobCon or Superbooth is definitely an eye-opening experience in different ways. And again, unless you don't have, you have friends that don't have a lot of synth friends around you that you can go visit their studios and play with stuff, it's really nice to be able to have vintage and new synthesizers to test out and really get a feel of, does this work for me or not? So that was really a good experience for me.
Awesome. I'm glad.
That's cool.
And it was really cool hanging out. It was cool that we all got to jam together too. That was probably my favorite part of KnobCon.
That was definitely that made that whole
Yeah.
weekend, honestly.
Yeah. We did we're on Slaughterhouse's, I think it's still probably up there in the VOD at this point. We did an hour-long jam, a bunch of us Shrimp Guildies just got in there, and there was all kinds of ridiculous gear in there. Literally, Dequil drove his entire modular rig down there, and it took up the entire desk in the hotel room, and it was just nuts. And the Slaughterhouse had a metric boat ton of crap, and yeah, it was great. It was a fun time. Folks were just strewn about the room, and we live streamed.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun, and it somehow didn't sound like moist underwear. I don't know how we did that, but but yeah, it was really cool.
Impressive.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Jeff, any last words from you?
No, this is fun. I'm glad I got to hear about KnobCon. I didn't get to go. I'd like to go soon. Maybe
I hope next year you can make it.
Hopefully so.
Yes. Justin, quit injuring yourself, and then you can come to KnobCon.
I know. Yeah, I guess the only parting thing I have is a little sad. I'd like to do kind of a memoriam to Richard H. Kirk, who just recently passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge influence on me.
Richard H. Kirk is the founder of the sort of industrial pop act Cabaret Voltaire. It really started the whole Sheffield sound in the late 70s, early 80s. So, yeah, he just passed away yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, between him and last year losing Genesis Peorage, those are the two big founders of the industrial music movement.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's just kind of crazy. So, if you love somebody, come close.
If we're getting old, our heroes are just getting older, man.
Yeah, that's true. But the good news is so are our enemies.
Wow, does that come out of the Klingon handbook of things to say to Klingon things to say in an old folks home,
Yeah, right.
I might be dying, but so are
my
you.
enemies.
In this assisted living facility.
Yeah, Wambra Genesis died last year. I think it just blew Genesis. I think it just blew Wambra away. I'm sorry. All right. Well, now that we broke Wambra's heart, our work here is finished.
We did it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to end on that note. I tried to end
That's
on a high
okay.
note with
Wambra, actually, Genesis, they did posthumously release their memoir called Transgender. It's really good. I highly recommend it. I read it a little bit ago. One of my other things I do when I'm not making music is reading a whole lot of books. So it's good stuff.
super interesting person.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, Wambra, for giving out those gifts, those sub gifts, especially to Robin, who comes on the show apparently as a freeloader.
I take back all the bits and subs I've given you in the past. There you go.
I'm just messing you. You know I love you. That's okay. Jeff and Justin and Christoph don't subscribe to me either. No, wait, Christoph subscribes to me. At least one person likes me. Anyway. Christoph will be back next week. Apparently, he is currently hanging off of a car in Thunderdome right now in Mad Max Land or something like that. I'm just imagining him sweating in a whole lot of leather and everything along those lines. So we'll get the full scoop about that and probably a lot of his sunburn next week. In the meantime, again, thank you all for hanging out with us. Stay tuned for more fun stuff coming up from the Golden Shrimp Guild. If you are not a member of Golden Shrimp Guild, please do so. Join. It's popped up in the thing up above you in your chat on how to get there. A bunch of cool people over there. Make sure to follow Jeff in his adventures. Justin is releasing a new album soonish on X Studio, so make sure to keep your eyes peeled for that. And I'll be working on hopefully finishing up the next Incrementum album in the next month. And yeah, it'll be fun. Again, everyone, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Who are we going to raid out to tonight? Let's see who is on. Dequil is on. Let's go hang out with Dequil. Dequil's awesome. Everyone should check him out and hang out and watch and love and enjoy. Dequil's actually one of my favorite streamers out there. So we'll raid over to him. Prepare yourselves for raiding. Raiding party engaged. Anyway, have a good night all. Take care.
See you soon.